See, you have the blur filter on
Yes.
your webcam video when we meet, which I believe makes the crispness of your clap a little fuzzier. You know what I mean? Because the outline of your hands, like those pixels, are fuzzier than they would otherwise be.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that going to fuck up our sync clap, right? Because it makes the sound fuzz out.
If we sync the video, hypothetically, though I like to do it in front of my body, typically. Plus, if you're looking frame by frame, it's going to be fine.
Oh, I
be fine.
typically like to do it in front of your body. That's the only way Jen can orgasm, actually.
Yeah, I've heard about this aspect of your relationship. They've talked to me about it.
You're there. It's in front of your body. How did you hear about it?
In order to do this, we've talked about this. I go into a fugue state.
Oh, okay.
And I come out like 4 hours later when you guys have completed whatever you do, which I don't know.
The hand Abe's tail. Yeah, we don't know. Where do babies come from? How do you sync a thing? None of these bits scan. What a terrible opener. But you know what? The person who picked today's flick will not mind. I know them, and they're awesome. And their name is Balls with a Z Inferno. Hey, big shout out to the guy that brings us all here today, Balls Inferno, who also, just side note, kindly gifted me a sci-fi short form comic that's basically just like really like 10 panels or less comics of this guy, Scott Bass. It's called Bad Space. And it's just like sci-fi short story offers, you know, because it's only 10 panels. It's like, what if there was a Twilight Zone where this kind of shit happened? And they're good. They're good offers. So their premises on a platter for, so Bad Space. Check it out if you like that kind of stuff, or my short story collections, Dark Twisted Sci-Fi. Big thanks to Balls Inferno, longtime Small Bean supporter, sending me physical gifts, always encouraged.
But and now they know where you live.
And yet I won't give my address out. And yet, you have to ask for it, and we have to form a rapport. To do that, you can join the Small Beans Discord server, which is open to all, whether you patronize us or not. And that community is currently growing, frankly, because we're putting out a bunch of extra content and doing a big push. So hopefully you'll be part of that. All right, Abe's yawning, so let's talk about the movie. Abe, you want to take over?
Woo!
Because you can't yawn about Dynamite.
I got you. Hoodwinked you. I'm actually really excited because it's a Western. It's a frame rate. We rate frames.
Wow.
I'm Abe. He's Mike. We're doing
no guest.
As you mentioned, Balls Inferno wants us to cover Duck You Sucker, which is also known as Fistful of Dynamite, which is a Zapata Western epic by Sergio Leone. As you probably, maybe you don't know anything. I don't know. I love Westerns. This is the second film of Leone's like unofficial Once Upon a Time trilogy. In 1968, he had Once Upon a Time in the West, which is about, complications on the railroad.
Yeah,
and then and then in Once Upon a Time in America in 1984.
This one's more like...
Yeah, this one is about explosives. It follows
demolitions expert. Yeah,
the Mexican Revolution of the 1910s. You get a Mexican outlaw who's a piece of shit like Black Hat.
Oh, I think that's arguable. Okay, interesting.
And then, and then an ex-IRA, like ex-military.
It's more like blaxploitation adjacent. Like he's a Black Hat, the way Django Unchained is a Black Hat to slave owner. All the people are like on their sleeve racist, we think you're animals, and he's like, well, then I will rob you now.
The film does start with a little bit of SA, if you recall.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's redeemable, which I like that this film doesn't really try to say, well, now he's a hero. You know?
So last chunks of annoying housekeeping, I guess I'll say, if you make like balls and contribute on patreon.com/smallbeans at the Pick the Flick tier, you not only get to choose a movie we discuss, but also can help us, if possible, pick the guest who's going to cover it as well. Balls, I think, knows us well enough that they legitimately just wanted our take on this because spaghetti westerns are among our Abe and Mai's both core interests.
Or they didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you can request a guest. Yeah,
always request a guest if you can. Remember, it will take us longer to do it because now we have to work with the schedule of that person, especially if it's like a Dan O'Brien type or, They're pretty busy.
Don't say that now. Everyone's gonna request him. He can only do stuff a couple times a year. He's not gonna constantly.
We're probably gonna use it. So don't say that. But you know, like, but
Also,
here's
sucks.
we also can just say no, because it's like, do you want the episode?
Right. It's what we can
year?
do. I'm just trying to sweeten the pot. But I also wanted to say, in terms of housekeeping around the film itself, I'm saying guest list, I think, is a good pick, because you and I will skin this alive. Like, this is our shit. And I hadn't seen it. Very exciting. Great pick. Did you watch I assume at this point, the like Sergio Leone's Vision cut that's 2 hours plus?
Yeah, I watched one that was like 2 hours, 40 minutes. I actually hadn't seen this either. I'd seen In the West End in America, but for some reason I just never.
Yeah, so for the record,
this film is talked about in film schools.
Film buffs definitely should have seen it, and arguably we should have seen it. But to a layperson, it was released as Duck You Sucker, which is a more literal translation of the Italian title, which literally translates to like "duck you testicle," because Caglione is like a slur there that they, whereas in America it just sounds weird in English. Duck you testicle. So they changed it to Duck You Sucker. That gets the spirit across, but it didn't do well. So they chopped it up, cut it down. There was some political shit at the top that we'll talk about, where they're like, you can't quote Chairman Mao in this Western movie. So the studio also made them change some shit. And after that, they tried to remarket it several ways. So that's how it ends up. It's not that interesting, but I at least wanted to explain, because I didn't know. It was repackaged Fistful as a Fistful of Dynamite. And it's so obvious in retrospect, because they're like, Fistful of Dollars is the big hit. Put the word fistful in that. That'll get butts in seats.
Bingo bango.
It was just a marketing bullshit.
Live, die, repeat. Am I right?
Yeah. And then and then they tried again. So it was re-released a few years later as Once Upon a Time ... in the Revolution, trying to milk his other big hit for cash.
Once Upon a Time in America, which did well.
Yeah, or in the West. Yeah, and so to pretend it was part of that trilogy, but it's not. So I'm saying artistically, the artistic vision is that it's called Duck You Testicle, and that's a reference to the fact that our dude is throwing dynamite at everyone all the time.
Yeah,
it's about Johnny Steiger tossing dynamite at people. And his friendship with Juan, the guy that Abe described. Juan and John. Juan and Doug.
Juan and John, yeah. And a good old brown face Rod Steiger coming at you.
That guy's Rod Steiger.
That's Rod. Okay. That's Rod Steiger. James Coburn.
Okay. I assumed the white man was Rod Steiger, because I assumed it wouldn't be that racist.
No, it's that racist, my friend.
Oh, no. I thought that was a Mexican actor.
1971.
I was going to totally give it its laurels for being ahead of its time on these issues.
No. Yeah.
And it's straight up brown face. Now that you say the name, I'm like, of course, that's James Coburn. I know that man now.
Yeah, the man with the teeth, the horse teeth man.
Okay, so Rod Steiger is Juan.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Juan, and here's the thing I want to say out of the gate, and Abe, tell me if this resonates with you. A reason this failed is, and we'll get into, there's amazing tells that I want to talk about, but it was, people said, this one's too silly at the time. Like, that's why critics panned it. And audiences largely didn't keep up with it. I would argue, this is a 1972 movie, it's doing shit that is rudimentary by comparison, but is like Edgar Wright Kung Fu Hustle shit.
Right.
I was like, what? Leone did a live action Looney Tunes?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
About Revolution, especially, I just want to give historical perspective on this.
About in his words, the futility and fakeness of Revolution, which is just so fucking amazing that this movie exists. And of course, people hated it at the time, but it was just too ahead of its time. I'm like, this would be a way more appreciated now. They just didn't get it.
5 years after the Battle of Algiers, listed as like what you go when you study films, typically they throw this film at you as like propaganda and how like modern mass culture ingests tough kind of philosophical conundrums. Not that films before didn't, but there was always an air of, and it's Hays Code and stuff like that, especially in America, but definitely all throughout the West. you don't just talk about revolution. And we're told that in like 1965 that was over. Like now anything goes, baby. And to your point, they still were like, you can't make jokes about it though. Like we have to treat this seriously. This has to be Silence of the Lambs, dead serious. You know, like that's not necessarily what Leone's all about. He was always kind of an Edgar Wright. I think that analogy is totally apt because he was just fucking with the film. He's kind of like a Sam Raimi.
This one that brought it out is I'm like, oh, he's almost Marvel or Kung Fu Hustle, really, or like
Kung Fu
anime,
Hustle.
manga, like they really come across as Western themed superheroes, or if you know, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or whatever, like they have stands, like they have. Or a fighting game, an old Marvel vs. Capcom. They have like super moves and they have themed, like I hate, it sucks because it's racist, especially now that I know that's Rod Steiger and Brownface. But Juan's power is the power of having 1,000 children that follow him around. He's like a Rat King character, you know what I mean? But like he deploys them and they like, it's like a clown car.
They're very good.
And then the other guy's a demolitions expert. He smokes a cigarette and then you're like, wait, that's not a cigarette, it's dynamite. And he throws it. It's like maniac. It reminded me of like Lupin the Third and shit. Like these guys are larger than life.
Larger than life.
And it made me realize how well and how correct Sergio Leone is. That samurai epic is meld so well with American Tall Tales. That's really what American Tall Tales are.
Nailed it. Yeah.
They are our Greek gods, your samurai legends, whatever you want to say. These are our larger than life warrior hero myths.
I'm not educated enough to know if this was like the first. I definitely have never heard it in that respect. But I know that in the 60s, the shit, I don't want to get involved with all this politics or all this, you know, all the harm that's happening right in front of me. I'm not white hat, black hat. I'm like something in between, but Jimbo, like, I don't know.
Eastwood, leave me alone. Yeah.
That hero didn't, I mean, it's Yossarian from Catch-22. There's a lot of, you know, literary.
Three Kings to look at things that inspire.
But I'm talking
downward,
60s,
downstream.
right?
Yeah. It's one of the most classic. It's the kind of person we hope we are. You enter the crisis with ill intentions almost, and then you find out you have so much human spirit, you can't help but become Oscar Schindler. You're like, oh, it turned out I was a hero. I was made of a hero's stuff after all. It's kind of that. I will say by modern standards, I'm sure Abe will agree structurally, like, man, he's so like up normally. Half or so of act one of a 3-act film is what we call resisting the call to adventure. In this, it's funny. It's more like a series of Roadrunner Coyote cartoons, but where the goal is, come on, rob a bank. No, come on, rob a bank. No,
rob a bank
like,
would be.
James Coburn resists the call to adventure way longer than a movie of today would. Like, I could see why they cut stuff. They're like, there's just no... It meanders. It saunters around.
But it's good. It's all good
delightful.
Character stuff.
Delightful.
It's actually interesting context about that act one. To me, like if you haven't seen this film and you want to hear like, all right, what's it kind of like for a modern audience? Like you'd be surprised that we're 1971. This has a lot of similarities in tone and message with two films that came out recently. Like Triangle of Sadness is in here. Right. Mm-hmm. And I would say One Battle After Another is in here. Right.
And The Long Walk a bit, if you listen to our episode on that, I think.
Yeah. They're not one-to-one films, but they discuss revolutionary. They discuss the idea of the poor classes being manipulated forever, even in revolutionary times. It's not completely negative against revolutionaries in general, but it's showing them as a human side instead of, as you mentioned, the tall tale kind of mythic prose surrounding that.
Yeah, in execution, it does all this Kung Fu Hustle stuff. But yes, to briefly touch on a couple quotes, it opens with a Chairman Mao quote, "The revolution is an act of violence." If you listen to our recent Kings of King episode on The Long Walk and other recent, like, a lot of mainstream thinkers, because we're fighting fascism, are rising, or, not everyone, but there's a trend in my bubble of people going, I'm not the only one who over the course of my lifetime has gone, oh, I understand now why Indiana Jones punched Nazis, or like why my great grandfather is like, no, you shoot a Nazi in the face. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a privilege to go, can't we just vote? Can't we just vote our way out of this? And then there's times in history where you can't, but it's arguable how far you should go, when you should pull that trigger. All these things we cannot unpack in a simple podcast. But of course, I do want to pull up the Peep Show, Great British Sitcom quote about Mao, where Sophie tries to make Mark look trendier by giving him a shirt with Chairman Mao on it. And he's like, he's responsible for more deaths than Stalin. Like, this is a gray area. And then a quote from Leone himself in an interview where he said, this was an exercise in deconstructing the myths of the revolution in the same way I felt we had deconstructed the myths of the West. Now, what's interesting is he deconstructs just a little by modern standards, because famously, Unforgiven will make you leave thinking, no, the West really is hollow. And in fact, life might be hollow. Sergio Leone is just dipping his toe in what I would call, by his era's standards, in deconstructing shit. But when you realize that that's what his intent was, it makes his movies make sense in a different way, especially this one, where it's like, oh, he's kind of taking the piss out of, yes, the revolution is noble, but it's also self-serving. It's almost like The Wire. It's like, as you age, you realize everything is a complex, interconnected web of people serving their own interests and agendas and rationalizing that they're doing good, whether they are or not. It's a big mess. Then you die. Oh, good luck, kids. Like, that seems to be a very human arc. And like you said, one battle after another, that is the exact same message. It's like, I hope you guys do better. Yeah.
I think there's an incompetence that's shown in
Generation
different
Kill
shades in both films. But yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I don't think he's even said, Leone, that is, has said this is not a political film, which is hilarious.
It's more
just
fun
because
in games.
It's true. He is kind of, as you said, a little bit Looney Tunes. He's style, and he's the spaghetti Western. He's the guy he's cinema guy. He's not like, I have thoughts about the way things should go. But this is him doing that.
He's also George Lucas. He's like, I bring samurai films here and change them.
Yeah, and then Gilroy is like, hey, George, Andor. Yeah, that's how you do that. But like, so it's like, it's a different kind of vibe. But it doesn't mean that what he's saying isn't like researched or isn't a valid opinion. Obviously, he's going to err on the side of being an Italian, having gone through like World War II. He's going to err on the side of the people. And he's kind of with the leftist movement that was happening, especially in Europe during the time. He's sympathetic with that.
But for the record, like Abe says, the fact that it starts with a Chairman Mao quote about how revolution sometimes actually requires violence, that would make you think the movie's more serious in tone than it actually is. Then it goes on to be a live action Looney Tunes that is loosely around that theme, but you're like, oh, okay. It's like a fun revolution.
It's like a fun revolution, but there's 3 or 4 conversations.
Guys. Yeah, where they, like TNG episode almost, they're like, let's stop down, and the writer will discuss his sort of cookie cutter, I would say by modern standards, pretty cookie cutter little thoughts on revolution, and then we'll get back to the fucking around in the desert. But like, for example, the opening shot is our main character, the guy who just wants money and ends up being pulled into the revolution despite himself, pissing on an anthill. Like killing millions of things without a thought. That has to be intentional, right? Like destroying a whole civilization without a thought. Like, yeah. So they'll do like, hey, heavy themes, man. And then they'll do all kinds of Wile E. Coyote shit in between.
Well, they released these 2. It's interesting because Coburn is like actually kind of one of these mythic figures, right? But he was one that kind of feels an amount of disgrace and guilt about his participation in, the Irish Revolution, or at least he's like washed his hands of it because he's just thought of as a killer, and he realizes, oh, I'm not like this mythic figure. While Juan, on the other hand, is like, I've seen the revolution. It's nonsense. It's just a bunch of people vying for power, and the only people that suffer are the poor. So I might as well just rob everyone who's richer than me. I should piss on everything. I will do rape. I will do all these things because I have no code like your code. Fuck your code.
Take on revolution is it's a good time to rob a bank because there's lots of confusion and chaos
and explosions.
But yeah, so have to say like not a perfect film by a long stretch and mention the straight up like there's no getting past. It broke my brain. I had to. There's no excusing. I don't know what to say. But the movie does an unforgivably propagandistic thing, which is he rapes this white lady in the beginning and she likes it because what she really needed was a good fuck from a real man against her will. I don't think
that's the implication.
And the movie's like, that was fun. A fun thing for our main hero to... No, I think it treats it like charming. Or like he's a rascal. What a rascal, like a Bugs Bunny, ain't I a stinker?
I think there's a whimsy to Morricone's compositions that make you think, oh, this is like kind of fun because it reminds me of Good, Bad, and the Ugly. They literally are sending you a message. What's the first thing that he does after he sexually assaults that woman who's a racist and horrible to him in the train? What's the first thing? He puts on a black hat. It is literally like textbook, like I'm just playing with action figures. This is no different from Tarantino to me. It's just in the 1970s.
So you think he is trying to say this guy starts out as a bad man?
I think he ends up saying that. I think the end of the film is you are not a hero. And his last question is why? What about me? He's like, I should die too, right? Like, isn't there any cosmic justice?
No. He's saying I'm alone. Now I'm alone in the world again. All my sons were killed. My only thing is I don't want to be left alone. It's his tragic downfall, like how Rorschach can't live in a world like with moral complexity.
His ideas haven't changed, just as the physician says. His position has not changed.
This happens so rarely. I strongly disagree. I think he is a charming Bugs Bunny like anti-hero that you're supposed to like, which gives me certain problems, like the fact that he rapes a woman. But I thought he totally has like a good heart and redeems himself in the film grammar.
I think they're playing with that. They're playing with that because it's, Rod Steiger. It's an American film.
Well, like he attacks racist people. That's code for that's okay, right? Or maybe in the 70s that wasn't code for okay.
It's super backward. Like
I don't know.
The fact that they're like, well, who would do all this shit? Well, let's do it to
racist
just
pricks.
A Mexican national. Let's just get some random Mexican guy.
Yeah.
Like that's already loaded.
Well,
to
and
begin
then
with.
James Coburn, as we said, he's been in the IRA. He's here to use nitroglycerin and shit for like semi-legitimate purposes. Basically, in a nutshell, so you don't have to watch the whole 3-hour thing if you don't want. Rod Steiger is like, oh, with our powers combined, we could rob the largest bank around. He's like, I have no interest in that. He basically forces him to do it by destroying his little bike that is the equivalent of Clint Eastwood's mule in Fistful. Like, I destroyed your transport. He goes, well, my boss will bail me out, the guy who runs the thing. He goes and kills that guy or something, I think, with explosives. So now he's framed. He's like, now you're wanted because they think you killed that guy. You have no prospects in life except to rob the bank with me. And then they rob the bank together and become best friends. But in the process, his passel of sons all get killed. And the guy the Irish dude ends up blowing himself up for the sake of the revolution. They do an attack that gains him no money, but he goes with it just out of friendship and loyalty, and it releases hundreds of prisoners who were otherwise going to be executed by Germans who are somehow involved, which is bizarre. Like an actual Nazi guy is there in this Western movie.
Yeah, there's
driving a tank
German general
sucking eggs down, and shooting people in mass graves and shit. So I guess I want to cede the floor again. That's just the nutshell plot that I took to be like a Three Kings, like, oh, he ended up giving up money and really joining the revolution in his heart, and he sacrificed everything. Like, what a hero that rapist turned out to be.
That's interesting. I do think that they're playing with that a little bit. I mean, there's a friendship that they're playing earnestly there. Like Coburn and Steiger are like smiling at each other at the end and going like, good job, buddy. But like, I always just felt
they are. But he commits rape and murder. He forces Coburn, and you're right. Everything he does is evil, even by the 70s standards.
and there's also just that it doesn't really hit till the act 3, where most of the film is setting you up to be like, all right, so these are these two maniacs, kind of. What Coburn isn't as much of a maniac. He's just a man on the run. He's the closest to a white hat, but even he wears like a red hat or a tan hat.
He's a maniac in that he's fearless because he'll wear dynamite on his neck. He doesn't give a fuck.
But even he's reluctant to be a part of a revolution. He's like, I'm done with the revolution because my ideas have changed, which is something that I really want to talk about in terms of the philosophical ramifications of this. And I think it has bearing, but I do want to address what you just said, which just in terms of like, they're swimming in the madness. This is people who are barely staying afloat because Leone's larger like thing that he wants to swath. And it's why you would choose like maybe a rapist and a person who's, you know, absolutely irredeemable as one of your main characters, to show that in the landscape, kind of like they do with like, you know, Industrial Revolution or a Dickens, like the Dickens Revolution, people writing saying that's not Dickens is bullshit. You know, like a lot of people saying for my setting, I'm going to choose a revolution where it is madness. And then I'm going to throw some mad characters in there. So that explains the Looney Tunes. It also explains why these characters
Empire of the Sun
are tall tales, but also that there is no true moral code, which is what the Once Upon a Time trilogy, if you look at all 3 films.
And a staple of the Wild West. That's what makes it wild. It's a lawless town.
It's Leone reversing his impulses from the Fistful trilogy, where he's like, there is a white hat. There is a guy who walks into a town and saves that fucking town. He's saying, no, there's no white hats. I'm not going to do another white hat. That's why he stopped making movies.
And I think that's
like,
why
I see what I've done.
In his mind, he achieved deconstruction, but it is funny for Unforgiven to then be like, no, this is deconstruction.
Nah.
You leave feeling bad about everything that happened inside. But that's a topic for a different day.
In any case, yeah.
Yeah. We're going to segue into a second point. I want to give you that space.
Well, yeah, okay. So, like, I wanted to talk about the physician, right? So you have this, like, I forget his name, but I've seen him in a lot of stuff. Romolo Valli. He is like a famous, like, Italian actor, and he plays in this Dr. Viega, who's a physician, and he is like a commander of the revolution,
who's with
like
the
Pancho
revolution.
Villa's revolution. And he's the one who's kind of orchestrating all the events around Mesa Verde, which is our, you know, big stage piece, the bank and all that stuff. And there's a conversation, and the way his story goes is we see him and we see that he's truly a revolutionary. He is the Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another equivalent, right? Now, we see him as, and we build that tall tale, right? And it's like, so don't look at these two fuckers who are just like have their hats in their hand. Look at this guy who's actually saving people's lives, orchestrating these huge events. And we find out later in the film that he actually is caught, and then he is tortured, and he gives up the whole farm, right? He says that these are the revolutionaries.
Under torture, he does give up the names of people that they then shoot in the face, and that's that. And then he escapes and goes back to serving the revolution and doesn't tell anyone that that happened.
Yep. He's like, why should I still believe in the revolution. And that's the conversation I want to cite. I still believe in the revolution. Nothing has changed. I was just a man who was tortured, and I never thought I would break.
Great scene.
But every single one of you, I broke. You break.
It reminds me of one of the worst TNG episodes, the one where they killed off Tashi Yar, where Aramis, the evil black goo monster, is like, metal man, I will make you shoot your friend in the head with a phaser. And he's like, that's
skin of evil.
He's like, will you be sad? He's like, yeah, I'll be sad, but I won't. It will still be that you did it. I won't have done it.
You
like,
you didn't like confuse me that I did it.
I don't confuse will with being coerced. So
no, that's right.
Yeah, same holds true here.
So yeah, it's a kind of the tipping the scales of power and coercion. Like, so he's coerced to do that, but his true power is to be a revolutionary, and he can be helpful now. In any case, he's like, that's the thing with people. If you are who you are, you don't change, kind of is his message. And Coburn is exact antithesis to that.
Or if you're true to something real, you continue, you get knocked down and you get up again.
Yes. So Coburn is the reflection of that. And he's like, no, you do change, and you can feel guilty about something in your past, and that can sully it forever for you. I'm no longer a revolutionary because I have been with revolutionaries, and I was betrayed, and I don't believe in it anymore. And that's like a kind of a Sunday Catholic kind of opinion about revolution, right?
We're not even betrayed, but like the pain wasn't worth what we achieved. We didn't achieve enough. It didn't go right. We don't get a full breakdown, but it's like, you get it. Like one was enough for me is all he has to say. And that's true. I love then compare that to the speech that he gives in the train car, Juan, because then his take, which is a super valid point in this argument. So even though it meanders and it has these things that are so out of sync with culture that, again, Abe and I are in disagreement about, was that a rape that the 70s thinks is okay, or a real rape that's being taken seriously as unforgivable? Mm-hmm. I am like now confused, but my point is it still stumbles upon very good crystallizations of important points of nuance that are still relevant today. 50 years of cultural drift is enough for me to be, I can't pinpoint exactly what an Italian director who was 60 at the time he made this in 1970 thinks the emotional weight of that is.
I think that the mere fact that she is like the most deplorable of the racists in that train car, and she's like, you're an animal and all that stuff, that in Leone's mind somehow justifies the violence.
I thought so. I thought he was doing a Django Unchained where it's like, well, you can rape her. She's the worst piece of shit I've ever presented. Was sort of to minimize it. That's the equation.
Yeah. No, I think that there is that message. And I think that's the heart of, that's not what I think Leone is equipped to tackle in this film.
So that's what I'm saying is, in that way, it becomes unwieldy. Some aspects confusing to me, or I don't know if I stand behind her. I'm like, what are you trying to say there? But then there's scenes of nuance that are great. And the one I wanted to throw out in relation to the one you just said, that I think we lose in the conversation a lot these days, is that the capitalist structures in place that you're often revolting against stay in place through the revolt. Meaning someone who goes into a revolution, even on the side of the revolution, who's a doctor, just statistically speaking, has a better chance of coming out alive than like someone, an unhoused person who signs up for the revolution because they believe the same things. And the quote I put in all caps because it hit me at the time. The people who read the books come to the people who don't read books and say it's time for a change. And that's true. So they sit around and they talk and eat, and the poor people make the change. And then at the end of the revolution, the change is made. But where are the poor people? They're dead. I'm like, yeah, that's another good reason to be disillusioned that's different than the Irish guy's reason. I like that.
Yeah, they're trying to really poke holes in the idea of
like revolution is messy.
So you're referencing the scene in the tent, and then Coburn is reading, or Sean is reading Michael A. Hakunen's. I don't know the author, but apparently fairly popular.
Clearly means something, the book that he's reading, yeah.
Political philosopher. The book's called The Patriotism. I did just a cursory look online to see what it's about. And the point is that the patriotism is a tool of the state, right? And it's another method in which the state is basically just prioritizes its own survival and abandons the individual. So even revolutions are not, they are the state. They're just the new state.
People have to die. So the revolution, like Hamas itself is an organization, and therefore people at the bottom suffer. Like, how can you ever get rid of the fact that people at the bottom bear the brunt? No one knows.
This is what this guy's saying. Yeah. And he kind of goes on to say he does think that other alternatives to revolution exist, like things like solidarity in where we see happening in unions. He brings up unions a lot, saying like that we're sharing goals, so we don't need a state. So he's kind of more of a decentralized kind of. And
they bond over killing some Nazis and saving some innocent people.
Right. Yeah. Everyone agrees with the killing of the Nazis, except for Nazis, obviously. But so Juan says what you said, and that disillusions Coburn to the point that he throws this book in the mud, which I think is it's almost like a Simpsons joke, I think, is what they're going for, of like, wow, here's this thing that we all agree about, right? And it's kind of Leone being a little bit of a tryhard, kind of contrarian in his roots.
The guy and be like, you ever
like,
think about how that's bullshit? And the guy goes, you're right, and tosses it out.
Like, with this one argument, I can really, outbid you for the pain. It becomes a pain Olympics at this point, I think, is what Leone's trying to say. And he's not wrong about the fact that the poorer classes suffer the most. And, obviously Juan, with his kind of brand of nihilism, is coming at this with, none of this matters. I won't even sanction this revolution. And I don't think he ever does by the end of the film.
No, I think it's cool that it stays messy and it stays confusing. And I do think, even though there's cultural drift and that's part of it because it's 70s, I think intentionally we don't know the hearts of these men. And that's part of what makes them like demigod figures. Like, part of their, so for example, they both, I think by intent and design, make choices where I'm like, but I don't ultimately understand that choice. And in each case, it's one very fateful choice. So for example, after all that and all that talk and bluster, James Coburn finally does decide to go out in a blaze of glory, shooting machine guns and exploding a bridge to kill all the Nazis. And when the guy asks, like, what changed your mind? He says, maybe it's out of spite for you and your slow dream. Maybe it's just because my feet are sore. So he says the thing a mystery man says, right? Which is, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe it's a lot of things, man. And I'm just doing. So the question is like, how much is he doing suicide by cop? And how much is it personal? How much is it because he still believes in the things this will accomplish, like freedom for the Mexican people? Or does he believe, no, the Mexican people are going to get steamrolled anyway. I just am ending my arc here for personal reasons. We don't find out. And I think that's part of the statement about the confusion of revolution and the messiness of real life that is honest in a way that modern revolution movies don't give us often. Like, even One Battle After Another is cleaner than this. It's more play-like.
Way cleaner.
Where Sean Penn, you're like, he gets such a fitting comeuppance. In this, again, I think it's very notable that Abe and I, who are expert movie watchers, whatever that means, Abe is like, at the end, I think the guy's left alone with his selfishness. And I was like, oh, I thought he was left alone with his tragic loneliness after redeeming himself. I actually think the real answer is it could be either. And that's an important point of revolution. Man, if you die in a blaze of glory for a revolution that fails, did you die a Klingon hero or were you exploited? There's no true answer to that.
Well, it depends on if
depends
you
on your
believe
point
in
of
Klingon
view.
heroism, right?
Right.
It's
the meaning you make.
Which we've made clear throughout the film. There's never a scene where Juan actually says, I am of this revolution now.
Yeah, so by the way, to make
to the
clear,
bitter end, he's like, we're getting out of here, right?
Yeah, so to make clear, because I said they each make one choice that really baffled me. Juan's confusing choice is when he finds out there is no gold. And the Irish goes, you can ditch now. By the way, I've gotten you in over your head, but it's because I want to save these people. I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory. You can leave now. He goes, essentially, without much explanation, we're friends now. I'll stay and die too. Why not? And truly, I don't understand his thinking because he's a madman all throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So you're like, I do think there's something profound about that, reflecting how, like, in the midst of fighting to the death for the right to live, things get really messy and confusing. Morality and loyalty is more to the guy next to you or gal next to you than it is to the ideals you signed up for initially. These are interesting themes.
It's actually, the messiness is a little bit tempered.
Violence makes things messy.
I would definitely land on the side of the messiness is doing Leone a disservice and the movie a disservice a little bit because of all the reasons you kind of said.
It's like a C+ movie.
But the thing is, there is that, like what you just said, like I definitely dawned on me towards the end of it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because, like, if we look at where they're going or where they land rather, we see that he's kind of either, as you said, it's messy, been inspired to join the revolution, or Coburn's just a guy who's just a friend. Now, Juan has been consistent the whole way through, in my belief. Now, you can believe he also has their try a redemption arc. I don't believe that. But they do infuse within each other a little bit of their togetherness. Their friendship actually takes hold. In both cases, they both start to take on characteristics of the other. In that, Coburn is like, trust no one. Everyone is a betrayer. I hate everyone. That's why I drive alone and I don't interact with
Please
people.
leave me
right?
alone. I'm Clint Eastwood. Have you seen the other movie? I'm Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, exactly. And by the end, he's like, I have a buddy, right? That is straight out of the
and I'm willing
book.
to die again for the revolution. And those things are linked, seemingly.
Right. That's straight out of the playbook of Juan, who's like, forget all of your principles. Just be together with your family, be with you, like you're my family, brother, kind of thing. So they share that. And at the same time, one could argue that Juan is getting a little bit of this revolutionary spirit as well. So it's true that it's very unclean. I can see why you interpret the movie that way. I think it might be a possible intention. I don't know with Leone, because Leone's kind of just like, I kind of just want to zoom.
Well, the only thing that would redeem him, it's the Ender's Game thing that we always talk about with intention versus, right, a classic moral question that can't be answered is, does your intention matter if the effect turned out the opposite, but you didn't know that was going to happen? Formation of so many stories about human morality.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, in that case, how do you interpret the fact that he did find out, there's no gold in there. There's just victims of the revolution. And he did say, I'll stay anyway and risk my life and shoot bullets at the bad guys and help you free the hostages. Does that not make him, is that not points? Because he's only doing it because he's friends with James Coburn and he has nothing to lose because all his kids are dead. Does that matter? Like, does he get no credit for being instrumental? Like, he helped save the hostages. He did the thing. You gotta get points for your effect.
But he didn't want to.
He didn't
still
give a
wanted
shit.
the gold.
He was hoping
he's only there for
gold.
Coburn because Coburn, I think, in his mind, is the key to the next bank.
I also think he's a man with nothing left to lose because of the slaughter.
Because his family is gone. He has nothing left to lose. That's why he wants to take the money and run. And once again, they Looney Tunes us out into it. The taking of the money just redeems him further in the eyes of the revolution as he's paying for, even Pancho Villa wants to meet him, kind of stuff. So they're doing that, 12th night nonsense. But like at the same time, I think that he is only there in the final scene because Coburn was like, I'm going to specifically do this thing with the physician and I'm going to hoodwink you. And it was supposed to be us two in a train car and we would blow up the train and then run away and go to America, right? That's our plan. And Coburn's like, no, that's not. And I'm not even going to tell you why. I'm just going to pick the physician as my partner instead of you. You go join all the revolutionaries.
I think
Juan is just like,
incidentally.
I think Juan is like, okay, so we'll survive and then, we'll head out after, I guess.
Do you think you could argue that he's tricked back by James Coburn into doing something noble against his will? Like he didn't know he was
tricked
doing
again.
something
Yeah,
noble.
I think Juan in general does not
have
much agency in the
regardless of crunching it, I can walk away appreciating that the swipe at complexity resonates.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you made it messy. That seems true.
There are things that make me go, okay, you know what you're doing. Like, did you notice that, like, Coburn's accent over the span of the movie?
Dude,
it's not good.
I was about to say that. I said Rod because I thought that was Rod Steiger. James Coburn's Irish accent does not exist until the line where he goes, I am from Ireland. You're like, wait, since when?
Since when?
Yeah. And then he does it, turns it on and off at will like a switch. As if a PA was like, Mr. Coburn, remember to do your accent. He's like, aye, that's right, laddie. Yeah.
See, I was actually going to argue the opposite because if you remember, the Irish line comes in like halfway through and then you get the train scene and he's like full on Irish at that point. I think he's there. I think Leone's kind of trying to map, hey, Irish it up a little bit.
He gets more Irish when he's feeling really nostalgic and
revolutionary.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know.
Cool, sure.
That's why I wanted to caveat that statement with like, it's Leone, like he's as subtle as a fucking fridge hitting you in the face,
it is Leone Tunes. Yeah. So we're drifting in execution, which is good because I think it's about
There's-
that time.
yeah.
But yeah, I guess so. I guess I'll ask you, since it seems like you have his Rolodex fresher in mind. Is this movie more Looney Tunes than the rest? That seems to be the critical reception.
It is.
Or are you saying he's
yeah.
always pretty Looney Tunes?
He's always pretty Looney Tunes in my mind. I mean, there's a reason that Sam Raimi is Sam Raimi in like Quick and the Dead. Like if you've seen that but haven't seen a lot of Leone, he's just aping that style. It's a very loud style, but this one is also he does jokes. He tries jokes, and Leone's not that funny, but he's trying. I would argue, and he's using a good guide. He's using Looney Tunes. You're absolutely right about that.
Well,
so
literally,
I do think
and there's an
more.
animated stuff appears on screen very briefly, but I was like, wow.
Yeah, they did like a Terry Gilliam banner at one point.
They do a very, what we would call high, dumb, and wide framing, which is like a really hard cut to a almost Wes Anderson-y pathetic undermining for a punchline.
Yeah.
So he goes, there's a point where main dude Juan is like, and my dad is going, he got caught robbing that same bank, but they won't catch me. Right, Dad? And it cuts to his dad, who apparently survived robbing the bank, but got shot in the leg, because you can see that he's rubbing his old leg wound as he goes, that's right, son. And it's really funny. Like he's nailing Looney Tunes shit frequently. And I would say nailing emotional Looney Tunes shit, by which I mean, if you follow the Kung Fu Hustle comparison, there's really emotional moments in Kung Fu Hustle or in the Cornetto trilogy. And I similarly was really moved when I was like, did his family get slaughtered or not? Because they really slow play that everyone in the caves is dead. But when they finally reveal just a one long shot of just piles and piles and piles of executed poor people, including Juan's children, we just hear Juan massacring Nazis in the other room, and it's all audio. I mean, it's like you said, it's not subtle. What if we saw the shot is thousands of dead bodies, and the audio is a guy going, "You fucking Nazis," and killing them all?
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
It's kind
though.
of a cool.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's simple,
it's
but
like
it's
a thing,
effective.
a way to do a movie, and it's like, that kind of rules.
Or like the thing,
he's
like
always been
political
good at that
cartoon
stuff.
shit. Like the bird shits on his head. There's two bird moments. The bird shits on his head, Juan, when he's in the middle of talking about poor people, and he looks up at the bird's asshole and he goes, "But for the rich people, you sing." And James Coburn laughs. And I'm like, that is a great little moment. And similarly, when James Coburn is forced to kill a caged chicken, and you're like, oh, it's because it was squawking and that would have given him away. But it's also symbolically perfect. Like, this chicken,
is helpless.
It's better to be dead than a slave, but also some things have to die for the revolution to succeed. Like, there's amazing shit all throughout. Yeah, visual shit.
Visual shit. The one that is really notable is the staging of the city for the firing squad wide at the midpoint of the film.
Yeah.
Where it finally turns to the wall, and we see the people against the firing squad, and one person spits on the poster, so we know that guy's the tyrant.
Oh, that's the Hitler. Got it. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. What a beautiful suggestion. And then it pans away. Beautiful location where we see it's almost this it's kind of surreal, but it's also feels realistic. It's in its real. It's kind of like Schindler's List, right? You're like, what am I looking at? This absurdity, this depiction of horror. And then or like Brazil, because it's so matter of fact, all of the tragedy. There isn't a crowd. No bloodthirsty mob, just totalitarian operations and executions, right? And then we kind of land on Rod Steiger's ripping of the eyes out from a panel of behind the poster of the wall, so that the tyrant's eyes
become his eyes perfectly.
Become his eyes,
almost
and he's
like hiding in a
witnessing
painting in a haunted house shot. Yeah,
and that's something that I think that Leone never gets a lot of credit for, or I think it's a very specific point, which is how Leone does otherness. And I think this guy understands what otherness is as an Italian who kind of comes into Hollywood, kind of comes to America, ditches
He is
the
a
kind of
Tarantino,
neorealist.
He's an import
He's
artist
new wave.
and an interpreter of things in the way
Yeah.
Tarantino has been.
And kind of like in the same way that I would, in the same breath, I would say the thing that I just described, can you not imagine that in like a Spielberg one, or, you know, like that is the kind of same thing.
In Touch of Evil, dude. Like
Touch of Evil is a great example. And I think Leone is actually still fresh on this. And I want to cite another example at the beginning of the film where you don't really know one other than he pisses on ants. That when he first takes a step into the carriage full of racist rich people, right? It basically works like a saloon door. Like all of Leone's starts with a saloon. Come on in. Who the fuck is this guy?
Everyone looks at you.
And Leone was very good about how he's like, I'm going to do POV reaction shots, right? Often handheld a little bit just to kind of mimic the uneasiness of entering a space where other people feel you don't belong. So him as a witness, where he kind of moves from one space to another as kind of an unraveling like participant to these actions, is really effective and accosting. It creates a lot of these emotional moments because I think you go, wow, what if you were just a guy fly on the wall witnessing this horrific kind of event?
And I love how he plays with the mystery of they immediately go, I bet he doesn't even speak English. And we, the audience, don't know the answer to that yet.
Yeah.
So there's all this confusion about, and the shots become really abstracted, really close. Talking about ahead of your time, it reminded me of the way I'm a Virgo recently did otherness by going in close on mouths that are eating. So they're going like, he's a fucking animal. Well, you're looking at a super close up of them like eating shrimp in a bumpy carriage. So they're disgusting. You're like, you look like a monster, dude. Relax.
Which is not like for us, that's like, okay,
yeah,
I've seen Lord of the Rings.
So effective. No, it's great.
I've seen
really
The Substance, you know, but like in 90
but it's
or
like
in
a guy walking up with a
1971.
bat and hitting a straight line to center field. You're like, good job, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's just like, he's bringing the heat.
Doing
that's
the
for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the score. It's Ennio Morricone, who he worked with frequently, very famous for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
He did
theme.
all the Westerns.
I immediately added this theme to my baby's music playlist. A new banger. I don't love every Morricone, but this one I thought is up there with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That shum. And it made me realize that Morricone holds a place in my heart similar to like Elfman or Zappa, where he's fascinated with like, what about sounds that have never been used before in a thing? Like a coyote going, or, you know, like, shong. Where'd you come up with that? He's like,
it's just sounds.
Yeah, I love it. I love that he just puts sounds. Zappa famously said, Zappa said, I'm not like a rock guy, I'm a composer, because I think of it as a grid where I'm assembling different sounds together. And I think you can feel that from Morricone as well.
Yeah. And if you haven't, go to YouTube and just listen to Ecstasy of Gold right now and then tell me, okay.
Is that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Or
Yeah. It's one of those tracks in there. Just, you know, all-time top tier composer.
I would put it with classical music. I think that might be one of the best pieces of music by man, but that's my humble
it's so
opinion.
good, dude.
I really think that, yeah.
It's not the,
and I think that
it's not that one. Ecstasy of Gold is different.
But
that one's also
I know the one
really
you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that, in the Hall of the Mountain King. I'm like, you have to go like hundreds of years in the past to get a better piece of music.
So iconic. No, you're for real. It feels so classic immediately. I agree with that shit. Can I just take a moment and just, I don't know, admonish? I don't know what the verb is here. James Coburn's like flashbacks, which I love that they have the instant sex filter, which is like when you put stocking in
it had to come up before the end. This is also where I thought we'd wrap up. Yeah, you say what you're going to say, but I wonder if I have the same thought.
James Coburn, the slow motion stuff where it's revealed that it's him and his buddy and his girlfriend, and they're by a tree, and he's just eating her whole face. And then his best bud smiles on 1 foot away and is like, let me in, let me do a kiss, let's all smooches. And their faces are like, no, man, you should get out of here. But then after she gives him that look, Coburn's like, all right, man, you should come over. And she's like, yeah, you should go kiss me. It's just a weird scene. Fantastically, she kisses him too, and Coburn smiles, cuckingly. I'm not trying to say, look, this is wholesome. This is sex positive or to me.
Wholesome in the sense that I'm fine, in that
I'm fine.
A lot of
but
holes
it's so
involved.
Awkward. These actors,
but definitely at least a spit roasting in the woods, right? This is a threesome.
You can see in the eyes of the actors, they're like, "Is this chill?" And I just imagine Leone going like, "Yes,
keep it cool, keep it cool.
Maybe you kiss him later.
Now we know now."
Yeah. What about me?
What about me? Apology to all Italian Americans. That shouldn't be allowed just because your culture was assimilated into the white structure.
Mamma mia.
We shouldn't do the Mamma Mia jokes. I'll try to stop. Yes. So my final thought on the movie is it's completely ruined by whatever the fuck that was, but it's multiple ways. So this is also, by the way, M. Night Shyamalan's formula ever since The Happening. He's done it every movie since then. If you go back and watch, and I hate it now because it's just so overused, is arbitrarily withholding, like, we know there is a Death Stranding, same structure. We know there's a long flashback that explains why the character is that way. We know it involves some like sudden turn of fortune, betrayal, haunting, something. And just whenever the writer decides, they remember a little more of it. Whenever, right?
Yeah.
So the big one that kills me in Shyamalan is he tried to make a big plot point in The Visit out of this boy needs to tackle this old man. And so he has a memory of a time he played football and he couldn't get the hang of tackling. And then one day he did Hulk out and do a good tackle. And then it cuts to the present and he does the tackle. Yeah. So something he did in the past contributed to something happening now. Like, what are we doing here? That's just cause and effect, man. Like, you can't, you got to plant before you pay off. So anyway, my point is, similarly, James Coburn throughout is like, I betrayed my friend, and we see his ghost with a headshot. And then he remembers more later and he's like, I didn't actually. He was in on it and we high-fived after. And then at the end you're like, but I did shoot him actually.
I did shoot him and kill him.
Well, how come you only remembered part of that? And then furthermore, I don't understand the part that Abe just described. I don't understand what to take from it. But the ultimate reveal at the end of this, and I'll compare it to another famous Western, similar time period, when you finally sit down and watch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as a modern film buff, and they do the raindrops keep falling on my head part, and you remember it from The Simpsons, I do think most modern viewers go, what are we doing here? Why is this part in here? Because it's just the actors fucking around for a while. And similarly, James Coburn at the end of this, like after everything, and the samurais are dead and they've all blown up and this guy's kids are dead, and he in brownface goes in voiceover, which has not happened the whole movie, what about me? It fades as if to do a post-credits like, hey, there's one more reveal, guys. And the reveal is, you know, that girl I've been pining for and that friend I betrayed, one time we had a threesome. Like, is that really what you wanted us to walk away with, James Coburn? That is relevant to this death scene? I don't understand what you're trying to get across.
I think it's his death rattle. It was it was his neurons firing as he
like,
slips into the abyss. He's like,
rad.
that one time I had that woodland threesome. That's the best.
With my friend I later killed, but I still liked him. He was a good guy.
But the threesome was good.
And then, man, I did love that. I wrote earlier in the movie that if there's any justice, this guy will die by smoking a stick of dynamite and blowing his own head off. And he does.
He does.
That's how he dies.
But it's like heroic smoking, too.
He says, got a light, and he smokes a little stick of dynamite and lets his own head explode. Amazing.
It's a bizarre film.
It's a fucking weird movie.
It's a weird movie. The 1970s. Look, cocaine is hell of a drug.
To be alive. Quaaludes existed.
Yeah, they were doing a lot. I have this version of film history in my head all the time, which is that, look, these things were new to someone at some point. Try to be a child like them, just like you're a child when you go see the live action of Moana. Yeah, I said it. Our shit is just as bad as their garbage. It's all fucking garbage.
Also part of, and that to me recently unlocked No Country in a way that it never has before, the final dream monologue. Really, having a kid does really drive home. Yep, nope, I achieved the whole human life cycle, meaning I'm now responsible for telling this new person what the mysterious future will be like. And the dirty secret is, I still feel young. Like, I don't know anything. Oh, that means my parents, who I thought knew everything, didn't know anything. Wait, that means it's a whole chain of assholes. Just, that's all humanity is. Yeah, it's a bitter realization we all come to in our middle age, and it's fun. Like, oh shit, there's no right answer. There's no right answer is like a tough,
it's a whole chain of assholes.
It's tough to swallow.
And then I'm going to put a stick of dynamite in my mouth and explode it. And shum out of here.
Shum.